This is the Greek Independence Day Roundtable.
Opa! Opa, Yasu. Love it. Oh, this is wonderful. You know what, John? We have heard you so many times talk about family. And that's exactly what we are. We're a human family. And we're all connected here in New York and around the world. And we're celebrating Greek independence. And I think that it's very important for us to understand that what we're really celebrating is our family and our ancestors and the great contributions that they have made, to the world. And we're very proud of that. We've got a wonderful panel here. And as they say in the game show, come on down. We're going to start with you, Jimmy. And introduce yourself. Tell us exactly what you do so everybody has an idea.
Jimmy Kokatas, president of the Order of HEPA, largest and oldest Greek-American grassroots organization in the world. Just celebrated 100 years, going on 101. Without question, the HEPANs and the members of the organization are woven into the fabric of this country, into the city, for all they have done 100 years ago, helping the immigrants assimilate to society here and become good Americans, as they have, building hospitals, scholarships, doing so much good, a service organization. That's basically what it is, building churches. And now, starting our second century, I think we are all interested in seeing how we're going to get our children and the second and third generation Greeks, Greek Americans, to once again embrace their roots, embrace their values, keep the language, keep the faith, keep the culture alive.
That's very important.
And that's going to be the challenge.
Jimmy, tell us about a HEPA, because not everybody knows how it started. Tell us the root about things that whether it was the Ku Klux Klan or whether the Greeks, when they came to America, were abused.
Yes.
So tell them.
Greatly so. And so in Atlanta, Georgia, July 26, 1922, HEPA was founded by eight people who came up with this idea to help the Greeks that were being chased by the Klan. And that was the beginning, was again helping the Greeks that were being discriminated against. And it's evolved tremendously through the years. We've sponsored so many people to come into the States that back in the days, the American government, was willing to accept you into the country if somebody signed off and assumed responsibility for you. And the HEPA has probably signed tens of thousands of those letters saying, let them in, we'll look after them and help them. HEPA is responsible for, as we were saying, Ernie, earlier, about 2/3 of the churches in America. HEPANs played a role in the purchasing of the property and or building of the churches. So HEPANs were involved. They sit on most of the parish councils. They helped build the HEPA hospital in Thessaloniki. They sold over $300 million of war bonds for World War II, which was the largest amount sold by a grassroots organization, to the point that they had their own kind of category by the Treasury Department. So what this organization has done, and the love that these Greeks showed for this country and respect that they had for America, to be able to sell those war bonds and to purchase them, sell them, and to play the role that they did. There was even a Sons of Pericles battalion in World War II, young men over the age of 18, a Sons of Pericles battalion that was helping the Allies.
And John, you have such I'm sorry, Jimmy, you have such a long stretch, a big arm.
Yes.
And when I asked you earlier, we were talking about a HEPA, and you said we are basically service. We help. And there are 30,000 members, from what I understand?
Yes, in the HEPA family. And it's the only organization, as we said earlier, the only organization from day one that welcomed everyone in. Everyone was welcome. Didn't matter whether you had money, how much was in the bank, what title you had. If you cared about making a difference, a HEPA would welcome you in. And again, no directive from national. The chapters are all being asked to help, find the need in the community and make a difference. And we are so proud to have John as one of our members.
Yes.
Because his generosity and Margot's generosity, we are so grateful for. And one of the things we try to point out to people, besides honoring your parents and your grandparents and keeping the tradition alive, which is the greatest gift you can give them, okay? We so appreciate when people don't forget that they are Greek, because in this country, this great democracy that we have, you don't have to pick. You could be a proud American and a proud Greek, and we're so happy with John. And I said this at Three Harricks a couple of years ago, John, when you were honored there. John has always taken us with him.
Thank you.
For that
Thank you,
ride.
Jimmy. We have
And
to
that
move
says a
on
lot
because
about
we're
you,
on
John.
a
Thank
budget
you.
on time. Lou, you got a couple of minutes too.
Yes, my name is Lou Katzos. I'm the president of the East Mediterranean Business Culture Alliance, and I'm also the chairman of HEPA's Hellenic Cultural Commission. So I'm happy to be here today, obviously, during this important day, Hellenic History Day. But also, I'm proud to be here as an American of Hellenic descent and to talk about the importance of the Hellenic Revolution to America itself. Many people don't discuss this, but the Hellenic Revolution is part of American history. During that period that we're talking about, the 1820s, 1830, in America, there was what they called historically the Greek Fire period, where in fact various committees were established throughout the United States to raise money for the Hellenic cause. And not only did they raise money to save thousands of people that were fighting in Greece, but also Americans went to Greece to fight. One of the first ones was obviously George Jarvis, who went initially to fight there. Another one was Samuel Gridley Howell. There was Jonathan Miller, and it was the African-American slave from Baltimore, James Williams, who fought and died in Greece, and there was other people, obviously, that died in Greece. But the most important thing was they went there to fight because of the fact of the slavery that was taking place over 400 years. And the most important thing to American history is they came back and they became among the leaders of the American abolitionist movement in the United States of America. And as a matter of fact, both white and black major figures within the abolitionist of America, the abolitionist movement, used the rhetoric of the Greek Revolution to in fact fight slavery in the United States. The women that were involved with those committees eventually became very prominent in the women's suffrage movement, and that again is a result of the Hellenic Revolution. So this is not only a Greek event today,
Right.
it's also an American event, and it's part of American history.
And what people want to know too, John, congratulations on all of that. We love the history. How does this all translate to today? How can we apply it from what we just heard to today?
The way we can apply it today is there were geopolitics that were taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean at that particular time. And oddly, it's the same, different nations, but the same geopolitics that are taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean today. So how we can apply it is, as Americans of Hellenic descent, through American politicians, etc., to make them understand what's taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean. The fact that Cyprus is still occupied after 50 years. The fact that the patriarchate within Turkey is under subjection. And also the rights of the airspaces, the rights of sea spaces, etc. All those lessons come from then, and they're still applicable today.
Well, thank you. And later on, I want to ask you how it applies to today, because there's a big socialist movement going around. And Venezuela was the wealthiest country in South America, and the socialists moved in and went from the wealthiest country in South America to a bunch of crap. But it's a later discussion. Now we have Paulette Poulos. She was Archbishop's trusted assistant, Archbishop Iakovos, and now she runs for the church. She's always worked for the church all her life, and now she runs a Leadership 100, where you have, it says Leadership 100, but it's almost Leadership 1000, and a lot, gathering money to help Greek causes.
Thank you, John. And thank you and Margot for always being there. You know, John and Margot were one of the first founders of Leadership 100, and because of their commitment, they also went and enrolled their son Yaini and their daughter Andrea into the program so that young professionals could be part of it. Leadership 100 is a national endowment program, and as John said, it was started by Archbishop Iakovos, a blessed memory, and many of you around the room I can see would know Archbishop. There are some young people who may not, but Archbishop Iakovos was a key figure for the church. He was a person who had great vision and a lot of courage. When Dr. Martin Luther King asked him to march with him in Selma, he didn't hesitate. He got on a plane and he went to Selma. When he got there, to his surprise, Dr. King said, "Your Eminence, you're my friend. You came to represent the Greek community. But we received calls all night that if you march in with us today, they are going to shoot the man with the white face and the black hat. So thank you, but I don't want your life to end here." And he said to him, "Please don't worry, Dr. King. I received those calls all night, and they were mostly from Greeks. I'm ashamed to tell you the Greeks were calling me saying, 'How can you do such a thing? This is a time of segregation.'" And he was so hurt that he said, "I will march." And he grabbed the hand of a little black child and he said, "If I die for human rights and civil rights, my life will be worth living." And after that march, Dr. King and Archbishop Iakovos became like brothers. Every event that took place for civil rights, the Archbishop was there. We went to Atlanta, we went to other parts of and after Dr. King passed away, Coretta would call and we were on a plane with Andrew Young and all of these people, all there to promote the rights. After the Archbishop did the march, and after Jimmy Carter, President Carter called him and said, "I want to give you the Presidential Medal of Freedom." And he said, "For what?" And he said, "For your courage. They threatened your life and you still marched." And his answer was, "I don't expect to be rewarded for teaching a lesson to the Greeks, the Greek Americans." They were people who did not understand, and they were frightened, and they were motivated by their fear. After he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he stood up for the rights of civil rights, all of the Greeks and all of the Greek Americans were sending him congratulations. "You made us proud." And he looked and he said, "The only thing I'm proud of is I taught you that you are a Greek American and you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to help wherever you can and to set an example." And for that, I'm very grateful that I was part of Archbishop Iakovos' ministry. And during those years and during my time at the Archdiocese, I now work, as John said, as the Executive Director for Leadership 100. It's the first time they ever appointed a woman to that position.
Nice.
And we started with 2 women on our board, and now we have 14 women. So
Great.
we're getting there. But
Wonderful.
just to let you know that Leadership 100 is a national endowment program started by Archbishop Iakovos. We now have over 1,200 members. And when the Archbishop sat around the room with a group of gentlemen, he said, "We need to help our church. Help me to find money to raise the level of our church so we will take our place here in America." And these gentlemen sat around the table. They said, "Your Eminence, we're going to go around the country and get 100 people to give 10,000 a year." And the Archbishop looked at them and said, "If you get 100 Greeks to give 10,000 a year for 10 years, God can call me home." After the first year, we had 250 members, and we said, "Nami vyaziste, don't rush, we're going for 300. Now we have 1,200. But the primary purpose of Leadership 100 is to perpetuate and promote Orthodoxy and Hellenism, because they go together. And that's why I'm here. We love these parades. Archbishop Iakovos, during his entire ministry, never missed a parade, except the last one when he died the day the parade took place.
Well, I have to say something about Paulette, and she's been serving in the community, the church and the community for a long time, and thank you for everything you've done. And Archbishop, we talk about powerful leaders. There was no more powerful leader than Archbishop Iakovos. He spoke, and the world trembled. Thank you, Paulette. And we have our chairman of our parade, who is a fantastic leader. It took a strong leader to put all the people together that weren't together. Philip, Christopher, tell us about the parade. Tell us about what we're doing.
Well, the parade started 83 years ago. And, of course, I remember when I first marched in 1960 when I was 10 years old with the St. Demetrius School. And John was marching with the Greek American School in the Bronx. So obviously 83 years history of the parade. The parade is symbolic of our traditions, our heritage. We are descendants of the birthplace of democracy. That democracy ended for 400 years. And after 400 years, we had a revolution. And we fought not only for the Hellenic values and ideals, but we fought for American values and American ideals. And that's why the immigrants that come to the United States, like my father and John's father, that's why we work so hard. And that's why the Greek American community is number one in education and number two in national income. That's why we have people like John and Marco that build this station. You all know that at WABC, ever since John took over, became number one in New York. And anything he touches, it's like a Midas touch, it becomes. But it's a trait of the Greek Americans. You go into science, you go into academics, you go into universities, you go into anything, and you will find a Greek American involved and very proud of his heritage. There's one word that describes us, and of course it's philotimo. My father used to use that word all the time, the philotimo. Even when I didn't get good grades in school, he would say, then he's philotimo, you don't have philotimo. So it's something that I think we carry with us, and we carry for success. So this year's parade, John mentioned that it's been difficult, but it's been, regardless of all the problems, we get it done every year. Last year, Lou Gatzos was there. A few years ago, Dino Rallis was here. Somebody steps up, and there's dedication and people that sacrifice time and effort to put this parade together. As of today, we have approximately 60 registrations of participants. We have like 20 floats. We selected as our Grand Marshals this year, first of all, WABC Radio to celebrate their number one status. And of course, John has been a fixture with the parade for ever since I remember. So he's Chairman Emeritus. We made him Chairman Emeritus. And of course, Ernie.
And I'm not even dead.
And Ernie, of course, Ernie has been involved with us for many years. And this year, we also selected a young business person. You may know, heard of him, George Logothetis. He is the executive chairman of the Libra Group, and he's going to be part of it. So on April 29th, we will have the Greek Independence Gala at the New York Hilton. There's going to be many politicians. And of course, George Delaris is coming to join that event at the Hilton. And we expect to have more than 500 people at the New York Hilton honoring WABC Radio, Ernie Anastas, and George Logothetis. And it's something very significant. On Sunday morning, we will be at the Pierre Hotel and a pre-parade breakfast. And then at 1:30, we will kick off the parade on 64th Street with our Grand Marshals and His Eminence and John, and the floats will go down. If you see the little kids that are going to be marching, it reminds me of my time at St. Demetrius. And of course, all the colleges are participating, communities, organizations. And I was looking at the president of the Hellenic American Lawyers Association, and I reminded him that they should be participating. The Hellenic American Bankers Association should be participating. The Hellenic Chamber of Commerce should be participating. These are organizations that we're very proud of. And one of the things that I am trying to do is to really get the so-called elite Greeks to come down to earth and march with us on the parade on April 30th. The parade is symbolic for all of us. It represents our traditions. It represents our language. It represents who we are as a community. And at the same time, we're sending some political messages. Lou mentioned about the politics. We're reminding people that 48 years after the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, 36% of the island is still occupied. And what is so different about Russia invading Ukraine and the difference of Turkey invading Cyprus, utilizing American-made arms, paid for by our taxes, killing more than 5,000 people, 1,600 people still missing. This is what it's all about. We're sending a message. The theme also is the return of the Parthenon marbles, to where they belong in Athens at the Parthenon, and that's something that is very dear to us. And of course, every American administration has to know that the Greek American community is dedicated Americans that believe in American principles and ideals, and we are very proud to be the descendants of the birthplace of democracy, living in the greatest democracy in the world, here in the United States.
Nice.
That's why we're here.
Thank you,
Look forward to
Philip. And I must say, we're very proud to have a American Greek as ambassador to Athens. And I said to him, if he's here in New York, we will be proud if he would participate in the parade.
Oh, absolutely.
And after you'll let him know if he's here in New York, and well, he has to confirm it. And
Last time I spoke to him, he said due to the elections in Greece, he would have a problem being here, but.
Well, let's see. If he's in New York, we'll be proud to allow to have him participate and march and be a major figure in the parade.
So much to look forward to, that's for sure. Thank you all. What a wonderful panel. And as we say, Zito y Elas, and God bless America. And we want to continue with our discussions, John, because this is what we're doing all day today.
Yes, all day today. Is there anything in particular that you want to say in addition before we end this session?
Well, we need the people to come out, John. Obviously, the weather
Well,
plays a big role.
WABC is going to tape it or put it on World Wide Web and on WABCRadio.com. Usually we're on Channel 9, and we offered our technicians to Channel 9 and Channel 5 to do it on Channel 9 and 5. I was willing to pay them. It was not a problem. And for some reason, and I told Philip this, they could not use our cameramen because our cameramen were not the same union as their station. So that is why WABC will do it on their own, and I'm disappointed in them because we were willing to pay WABC, but we were willing to pay Channel 9 and Channel 5, but they wanted the same union, and we couldn't do it.
Complications, I know.
Obligations.
Well,
you were there for a long time.
Yeah, you know what? When we've done the parade so many years and so much fun, and I think, the essence of what we're talking about today is understanding each other and primarily family. I go back to that again, and it's our children. When I look at the parade line and you see all of the young families out there, and it's the little children who are looking at this and saying, what does this mean to me? And if we're able to share the stories about their parents, their grandparents, and have them understand why this is the great melting pot, how they have contributed to this lifestyle, and how we can continue that, I think that we're, living up to the mission that we have as parents and as leaders in many ways. But this is a great forum. And I think we've heard from a lot of good people who are sharing their love and compassion for what we're all doing. And John and Margot, again, we always thank you because you're the conduit. You give us the opportunity to be seen and heard, and we applaud you and we thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good job, John.
This is the Greek Independence Day Roundtable.
Okay, so here we are. Hi, everybody. We're waving our flags today, Greek and America, and two beautiful countries that we're celebrating. And, it's so really fun to have people here in our studio and to be sharing in the magic of Greek American Day. And you know what? I think that sometimes when you start thinking about family, home, it's all personal. And we have a great panel here. John, you've been at this for a while, and you're involved with so many different groups and organizations. Mm-hmm. Tell us about yourself, and tell us why this is important for you today.
Absolutely. So my name is John Babaspanos. I'm partner at a law firm here in New York City. I'm representing the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce as the director of the Hack Innovators, which is like the young professionals group. And I'm also representing the Hellenic Lawyers Association. I'm on the board of that organization as well. I've been involved in Hellenic American activities since I was a kid. And it's very exciting for me to be here today because it means so much to be Greek American. I have a few family tales I want to share with
Go ahead.
you. So whenever I have a bad day, whenever things are challenging, I look back and I say, things were very, very tough for my forefathers. So like a lot of immigrant groups, it gives me inspiration to be Greek American. On a day like this, you celebrate it. You say, my paternal grandfather, he gave up his life in the World War II against the fascist Italian war machine in the northern Greece. My maternal grandfather, he was abducted by communists, and he was taken up in the mountains, and he sacrificed his life and for his children. And you hear these stories, and then you have a bad day. It's all relative. So being Greek American, you understand the sacrifice for a greater good. That sense of appreciation for your forefathers, and that gives you a lot of empowerment.
It was so important that you heard these stories.
Absolutely.
And you made them part of your life now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you passing it on to your family?
Absolutely. So every time there's a situation, it reminds me of either a Greek saying, and there's a lot of them, pan metron ariston, when you have a situation where you have to have moderation, or the love for excellence, areti, or when you have a situation where you don't know what to do, you have to consult your inner group. And that's a very Greek thing. We're social creatures, politikon zon. So we go to the coffee shops and we chat with our family and we get all those data points and make some of the big life decisions. So a lot of the Greek cultural heritage seeps into my daily life. When you walk through Broadway, you look up and you say, hey, all these theaters, where does theater come from? The drama comes from ancient Athens, right?
Yeah.
All the original pre-Shakespearean thespians. And then you look at, I work at 30 Rock. So Saturday Night Live, that's satire. Where does that come from? That comes from Aristophanes, right? Making fun of people back in the day. So it's a constant reminder, and it makes your life a little bit more meaningful, and it connects the dots for you. Gives you a
I
frame
like the
of
way you
reference.
remember all of those words per sex day. My grandmother would always say, be very careful, careful. We have a good history too, George. George Venizelos, we go back to Lowell, Massachusetts, our grandparents and our family back there. And you have a lot of personal stories as well growing up Greek American.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I remember, growing up, my mother was born and raised in Lowell. My father was from Greece. So you couldn't tell if my mother was born in Greece, too. She was a very Greek family. And it's a funny story. I remember when I was the Grand Marshal, I was fortunate enough, thanks to John Catsimatidis, to nominate me to be Grand Marshal. I was the head of the FBI in New York. I had interviewed Ernie for the first time, and with Ernie.
Yes.
And I remember the story I told you. I said, growing up, Ernie, you were a big part of my life, because every time you would come on TV, which would be every night on the news, my mother would look and say, look at Ernie, he made it. Look at Ernie, because
nice.
our parents were friends in Lowell, Massachusetts. So I never got a chance to meet Ernie until that one day. And I remember telling you the story.
That's great.
And then, it's just such a small world. And that's what being Greek does. We all grew up in the same families, with the same with values and hard work. Both my parents worked their whole life. And I remember 16 years old, I started working at a shipping company downtown New York. My father was a port captain for Hellenic Lines, which at one time was the largest Greek flag shipping company back in those days. And the day school closed, I went to work down by Wall Street, and I didn't stop working till the day school opened. All my friends would be going to Jersey Shore or going on vacations in the summer.
Yeah.
No. And this went on for 6 summers through high school and college. So, we grew up with that work ethic. That hard work wasn't hard work; it was life. It was part of life.
It was a way of life.
And that's and I attribute a lot of my success in my life through hard work. Being that overachiever. Whether it's FBI, and now the last 6.5 years, I've been very fortunate to be John Catsimatidis' chief of staff. I'm getting a doctorate degree, being next to John for 6.5 years. I've learned about oil business, grocery business, real estate business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the secret, is hard work.
Yeah.
If you're a hard worker, you can learn anything.
Yeah, and you're right about our family passing that on to
Yeah.
us, the work ethic. And you know, what you never wanted to do is to bring dishonor or shame to your family name. That was very important.
And Greeks are proud people. I remember, you know, I was kind of a jock in school, so I was into sports. I was a Greek school dropout because it interfered with my football schedule, so I didn't go to
Right.
Greek school. So, you know, I didn't have a lot of Greek friends growing up, other than cousins and family going back to Lowell for Easter or something like that. But I really, when I got promoted to be the head of Philadelphia before I came back to New York, the Greek community came out. Because, you know, we got honored by this group, honored by that group. And it hit me, it really hit me hard, where I didn't realize how proud the Greeks were of each other.
Hmm.
You know, I never experienced that in my life.
Right.
And then when I came to New York to be the head of New York, and, you know, being a Grand Marshal of Greek Pride, I remember when I was asked, John was one of the people who asked me, "Do you want?" And I was like, should I? Can I? Am I allowed to? I had to get permission from the FBI. And I did it, and I went in there not realizing how it was probably one of the best days of my life. And the only regret I had, unfortunately for me, my parents died in '94. So they died, you know, a month apart in Lowell. They're both buried in Lowell.
Hmm.
You know, one had cancer and one heart, you know, they just, boom, 71, 72 years old. So unfortunately, they weren't around to see a lot of the success. I remember that day at the parade, it hit me that, damn, I wish they were here, but I know
Yeah.
they're looking down on me. You know,
But they can see it.
Yeah.
We believe that.
Yeah, I remember saying that to somebody, you know, I wish my mother and father were here, you know, but I think the Greek culture really helps you succeed. It really does.
Without a
Hard
doubt.
work.
Yeah, and there's so much humor as well in the Greek family.
Oh, yeah.
When my two sisters and I talk about our parents, we always laugh.
Yeah.
There's a little funny story that they told, something that we remembered. Christina, you do so much wonderful work in the New York area with charter schools, and we were talking earlier about the young people and the experiences that they have. It's not, you know, something that's just quick, but it's more in depth. And share a little bit, come closer to the microphone. Share some of these stories that I think are really wonderful.
Sure. So happy Greek Independence Day.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me here today. So we're really very, very fortunate. I'm very proud to be the superintendent of the Hellenic Classical Charter Schools, a National Blue Ribbon School in Brooklyn, and then a replication in Staten Island now. But we really, truly believe that we can instill Hellenism in all, and we have a really diverse community. So what we do is we get deep into subjects. So for example, what do I mean? In middle school, we actually take the children and we go to Greece and we get deep into a subject. Like, for example, this year they studied Dr. Papanikolaou, the founder
Pap smear.
of this Pap smear. And so we went to Aegina, we went to Kimi, we interviewed the great niece, we went to the museum. The children come
Great.
back, they went to Cornell University, so they get really deep into a subject. Ancient Greek Theater Club, they go to Greece, they go to the ancient Greek theaters, they come back, and then they put on a play. They write and put on
Wonderful.
a play. So the children get deep into, you know, the subject. So this way, they're experiencing the whole entire, the language, the culture, the history, everything together. And our children are really diverse. Only about 20% of our families are of Greek descent.
That's amazing.
So, yes.
And they're learning Greek, they're speaking Greek in school. This is
Yes,
terrific.
Yes.
What a challenge for you. The age group again is preschool up through.
So it's pre-K to 8.
Yes.
And then after they graduate in 8th grade, they get into really great high schools. As a matter of fact, they come back and they always tell us, guess what we wrote about in our college essays? And so that makes us really proud because they're not of Greek descent and they know so much about our culture. And it's great when we hear things like that.
Let me ask you, do we all feel confident that we're able to pass along the stories that you just shared and this culture and this great tradition? Are we able to continue that? Are you confident that this will continue for many years to come, John?
Absolutely. I mean, looking back in history, we invented, we're in literature. If you look at the Odyssey and the Iliad, we're storytelling folks. And we just love getting together, and especially like evenings after dinner with a little wine, and we just tell the stories. And that's what creates our identity. I feel like you can't really understand where you're going unless you know where you've been. And it's great to reminisce in the past and how far we've come, right, as a community. I mean, we came here as shoe shiners and diner owners, and my dad, I used to work in the diner, and my dad would say, make sure you work, outside of this kitchen. Like, I'm going to send you to school. And these things just leave an indelible mark. And I'm just so glad I went through that experience, because I'm going to be able to share those memories to, my kids. So it's really...
George, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I have 4 children, and 3 of the 4 have lived in 4 states. So, and I think the church is what really held it together. Fortunately, my wife's Greek too, so, the church kept it together, and the language is hard to pass down.
That's difficult, I agree.
Because I grew up where my grandmother didn't speak English, my father barely spoke English, he spoke with an accent, so I understand it better than I speak it.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't speak it as much as I should, so that wasn't passed down, but I think the Greek traditions are passed down. My youngest is a sophomore at college, and at his dorm room, which I'm really proud of, he has a Greek flag he puts up there.
That's great.
So, so they're definitely proud, and we become our parents, with one big fat Greek wedding where, oh, that person's Greek, you always somebody, oh, they're Greek, So I find myself doing that my parents did, and I never thought I would.
That's very nice.
So hopefully that will pass down to them.
Hope so. Christina, you're very confident, aren't you, that things will continue and progress in a very positive way?
Oh, absolutely. As you know, when you're educating children, it's the most exciting thing in the world. So we're really fortunate because we get to teach children how to read, write, and speak in Greek, and Greek dancing, and marching in parades,
Right.
et cetera. And so when you expose children to all those things, they just know that they'll continue to be proud of
For
their
sure.
of their heritage.
Well,
even
we're
if-
looking forward to April 30th, the Greek Independence Day
Yeah.
Parade on
Congratulations.
Fifth Avenue in New York. It's going to be a fun time. It'll be certainly heard on WABC Radio. John and Margot have done a wonderful job. We thank you all for being here today and celebrating a terrific day of warmth and love and compassion. Thank you so much. Zito Elas, God bless America, and thank you for being part of our broadcast.